This next contest is scheduled for one fall.
You know, it's nice to see we got referee Joe McGillicuddy doing all the jobs here tonight. You know, I could have easily put on a referee shirt.
We could not have that. No.
For a small fee, of course.
Well, you'd love to be associated with this guy.
Who wouldn't?
Marion Fontaine has never been at the top of my Christmas card list. He's another guy that has had a lot of very crosswords with me and maybe some crosswords for these people. He has had an agenda, but he's, I guess, lived up to it so far.
If there's one thing I've proven, it's that my reputation, my demeanor, heck, my generation in general is better than those young whippersnappers in the back. The punk kids that come out here to impress you folks. Little lady, I've been on a win streak if you haven't paid attention, and tonight's gonna be no different. Fans like you and you and you and you cheer for people like Andrew Palace. Somewhat morons, every single one of you. I've been calling out Andrew Palace every time I get in here, and what happens? I get somebody low on the totem pole. Where am I at on the totem pole, huh? Alex Jordan, bring him in, take him out. Sean Phoenix, bring him in, take him out. Cisco Silver, bring him in, take him out. Andrew Palace, you're the next notch on my belt, so be ready. Miss Marion Fontaine, I'm no paper champion. I'm a man with a reputation and moral fiber as long as the drive from here to Toledo, Ohio. It's only a matter of time before Marion Fontaine not only defeats Andrew Palace, but makes everyone here realize just how great Marion Fontaine is.
Marion Fontaine continuing this crusade to think that the up-and-coming generation of the day is not in his league, not in his league back then, not in his league now. He's undefeated, but we'll see how this young man can do. Cisco Silver is an individual who's made his career and made his home around this part of the country, but he's somebody that has won a national title in high school when he wrestled at the Notre Dame College of Ohio. He beat world team member and Olympic trainee Nishan Garrett. So certainly this guy's got great fundamentals, great base that he's built his professional wrestling career around. We've only seen him one time before here in Premier Championship Wrestling. It was a tag match against Locked and Loaded. A little more evenly matched outing here, but I admire the heart, I admire the courageousness of Cisco Silver standing up for his generation. We've seen, as Fontaine mentioned, the likes of Alex Jordan, Sean Phoenix attempt to stand up to Fontaine. Fontaine's beaten them all thus far.
Well, Joe, credit to Cisco Silver. We saw the valiant effort against Locked and Loaded, and kudos to his generation. I'm sure Cisco's very proud for the hit he had in the year 2000, the thong song.
That is not never known.
Oh, you're right. He was also in that dog sled racing movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. But this is Marion Fontaine. This is my generation. Kids that learned the wrestling business the proper way. You know, they paid their dues. They shook hands. That's not something these young kids know about nowadays.
Knowing you and your dated references, I'm surprised you didn't take us back to the 70s and reference War as the Cisco Kid. But be that as it may, Fontaine not impressed in the early going by Cisco Silver. But Fontaine has also And you can say what you want about the younger generation. You can be critical, and everybody is critical about the different generations. But at the same time, I think Fontaine, all of his victories have had an asterisk next to it. And to me, more importantly, Fontaine has been most critical of the former premier champion, Andrew Palace. He's called him a hothead, overrated, lame duck champion. Fontaine has never respected Andrew Palace, and I find that hard to not respect Andrew Palace based on what he's done for this company.
Well, let's touch on one line that you used in Marion Fontaine calling Andrew Palace a hothead. Wasn't it Andrew Palace's temper that got him in the loss of the championship to Ron Mathis, with him fighting the urge to use that championship on Ron Mathis, thus losing his cool and losing the championship?
Yes, Palace did at one point get himself disqualified, and yes, Mathis did use that temper to sneak in the back door and take the championship in the rematch. You're correct.
Well, then, Your Honor, I rest my case.
I'm not denying Palace is a temper, but I mean, I still respect him. Nobody's perfect, but Marion Fontaine feels the need to. I think Marion Fontaine's just finding ways to hate Andrew Palace. He's making stuff up at some point.
Well, okay, sometimes if you don't like a person, you gotta find ways to whine and complain about it, but I feel in this instance, Marion Fontaine is justified.
I think if you look at the logic, you'll find that those complaints are unwarranted.
Well, Joe, it's not like he's, messaging people on social media complaining about it for hours on end. It's not like he's telling anybody in the locker room that'll listen and whining and crying. He's making valid points to these people so they can be educated and make a smart decision.
Well, how valid is the agility of Cisco Silver we're seeing here? He trapped Fontaine a couple times, lands on his feet. Great respect from these fans.
Well, this kid definitely has energy. He's definitely not afraid to fly. And I hate to say it, but Marion Fontaine might be smart to ground Cisco Silver. Cisco Silver's going to flip-flop and fly and wants to get a victory. And I think you'd agree it would be a bit of an upset if he were to pull the victory out on Marion Fontaine.
Absolutely. And I know many of Cisco's family and friends are here watching on as Cisco with a head scissors takedown. Nicely done. Cisco has the number 3 in his logo. And that's in honor of his brother who had passed away this past year. That was the jersey number that he wore. So Cisco has his family very close to his heart. And I believe he comes from Puerto Rican roots, and certainly family is very, very important to him, and his friends are like family to him, and a lot of them are here cheering on, and arguably the biggest match of his career.
And what an honor it must be for him.
Check out the Hurricane Rana, nicely done.
I was going to say what an honor it is for him to go up against a decorated professional wrestler in Marion Fontaine, but he was sticking it to him there for a second.
And Fontaine comes in, running his mouth, underestimating people, pays for it, but snaps off a nice DDT.
Well, Joe, I will say that is a mistake. You underestimate an athlete like Cisco Silver. Wait a minute.
Got him, no.
Well, you're going to have to put more leverage on the shoulders of Cisco Silver. But you underestimate somebody like Cisco Silver, you're going to pay for it. It's not going to be a good day.
Certainly not. Cisco's very hungry right now. He's looking for that big career win to make his mark here in Premier Championship Wrestling. And that can absolutely come against Marion Fontaine, a man who's been a top champion. An organization, former Prime Wrestling champion. He's headlined pay-per-views. He's been all over this country. And saying that Cisco Silver or Andrew Palace have no heart, I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. I just don't agree with that.
Well, who asked you?
I'm a journalist. It's my job to give my opinion.
You're fake news, sir.
Nah, I'm not sure about that at all.
You want a real journalist, you go to my Twitter and see what I report on.
I would rather not. Marion Fontaine focusing on the leg of Silver. Smart maneuver. Obviously, Fontaine's got to slow this young man down because Fontaine has not been able to keep up to the quickness of Cisco Silver when Cisco's been opening this matchup up.
Well, Marion Fontaine, put together shortened version, Montagne. Marion Fontaine certainly knows what he's got to do to get the victory. He might have started off a little bit slow. Maybe did underestimate Cisco Silver, but he's picked it up now. Montagne, I guess that would make me, Beal and you, John Browski. And...
While you figure that out, I'll call the cover as Fontaine gets a count of 2. You're that real journalist, aren't you?
Well, I'm an innovator.
That's what you report on Twitter.
I can tell you about that BC
name
Steel,
mashups.
That BC Steel scoring system I mentioned earlier. Fontaine up by 17.5 points, by the way.
Let's see. Well, the only important numbers here are 1, 2, and 3 in that order.
Well, with this referee having 1,400 jobs, we're going to hope that he can get to that.
This referee's making waves. He's one of the most respected young refs in the game.
He's a young Mark Steele.
Ooh, nice elbow.
Marion Fontaine again, going back to that leg, the smart thing. Joe, how successful is a man with one leg?
No, it's what you're talking about. Zach Gowen's very successful.
Hey, yeah, well, I like him. Is he going to hear this?
Right.
No, I like him then. He's a great guy.
Marion Fontaine holds a victory over Zach Gowen.
Well, then that's why I like Marion Fontaine a lot more.
All right, then.
I can be unbiased, though, of course.
Cisco, maybe one day. There's a trap of the shoulders, 2 count only.
But Joe, okay, let me more specific question. How successful can Cisco Silver?
Fontaine gets 2. I mean, we talked about his mobility, his speed is going to be compromised. Marion Fontaine is taking away Cisco's biggest asset at this point. A guy like Zach is certainly used to functioning on one leg. Cisco Silver, I haven't seen in this kind of damage yet.
Well, when you got an injured appendage that you're not used to not having the functionality, it's almost dead weight. It's a hindrance, certainly.
Fontaine with the Funk Brothers spinning toe hold.
Actually, Marion Fontaine perfected this. Dory Funk actually said, Marion Fontaine does it way better than I ever did. Same with Terry, too.
I'm going to need you to source that quote for me.
Direct from the source. Funk Brothers, they said it.
I see. All 3 of you were just hanging out, I'm sure. Cisco Silver with forearm shots. Elbow as well. Fontaine again, though, finds himself in jeopardy. Silver elevates himself. Nice moonsault. Silver with an upset. No. Man, Fontaine may not ever show his face again in Turner's Hall if he winds up eating crow like that. Cisco Silver, who Fontaine has demeaned this entire matchup, nearly shut him up for good.
But Joe, that would have been
Oh, no, nobody there.
If Cisco Silver were able to pull it. Uh-oh.
And the Tamikaze, Silver's momentum cost him. That time, Fontaine able to pick up the victory.
Here is your winner, Marion Fontaine.
Well, Joe, all is right with the world, and my generation proves once again to be superior with the whippersnappers of today. Again, Your Honor, I rest my case.
So what's next for Fontaine? What's the end goal here? What's he trying to prove? Oh, the mocking Cisco Silver.
Now that was impressive. I know we got the Olympics coming up. If I were a judge, I'd give that a 10.0 or an 8.0, whatever the highest one is.
Whatever the highest one is. Well, we'll see how high Marion Fontaine can go in Premier Championship Wrestling as he continues his crusade against the young generation.